It's Wednesday. It must be the Tyca Festival Visual Arts workshops with Go Create. I'm Jenny.
Hi, and I'm Liz. The series of 4 workshops are called the mask sessions. Now, the mask conceals something from view. It can be worn to disguise or to protect, to amuse or to frighten others. It may be something we metaphorically wear to present ourselves to the world, but we use at the same time to hide what we really think or feel. So today's session, the first mask session, is all about the functional mask.
So today we're working towards a face covering to reflect your personality, a mask for a party to amuse, frighten or disguise, designed for mask, protective mask, which is playful or in the style of an artist.
Okay, so our task is to design or make face coverings and masks and things, but we're going to structure all the workshops in a similar way. So after the introduction, we'll explore lots of ideas, and then we'll zoom in and refine our ideas and come up with something that we'd like to create. And then we'll share those things either at the end of this session or at the beginning of the next. Okay, do you understand?
The functional mask. During COVID-19, protective masks have been increasingly sort of more part of everyday use. Here we explore some of the masks that have been created from around the world. Really varied responses. So we've got some crocheted masks, we've got masks that have been painted on, we've got some fashion masks with zips and quite sort of funky additions. We've got a scuba diving mask. Here, a husband made for his wife an NHS mask with a heart on, which you can't really see. Here we've got a mask with petals, a homemade paper mask, a really cute little koala mask. So there's all kinds of different styles of masks that you can look at making.
Okay, so when we're exploring our ideas about the functional mask, we've got our protect, to frighten, to humour, to disguise. And so one of the first things I tend to do is to go online and research things, look through magazines and come up with images and pictures. So here we've got some rather humorous images here. We've got masks they're still to protect, but also they've been given that sort of sense of humour. So we've got dogs and so on. We've got someone with a face in a jar of Nutella. And then we've got that lovely smile on the protective mask.
So here we've got some fabulous superhero disguise masks. We've got some masquerade ball masks. And we've got some really embellished masquerade masks as well, with all these amazing additions and feathers.
And when we're thinking about frightening, we sometimes look at different places around the world, like the Mexican Day of the Dead. We've got Frankenstein. I think this one was meant, obviously to protect, and it's meant to sum up someone's personality, I think, but I actually find it quite scary. And then we've got some sort of slightly horrified type of mask, and then this crazy one with a lobster on the face.
And here we have some masks to protect. So we've got some visors here that have been sort of decorated especially. And this one here, you know, this is quite a heavy duty metal protective mask. Here we've got some funny sort of toilet roll inner tubes made into a mask that looks a bit like a mummy. And here again we have the protective mask that you might wear in a clinical situation. That might be scary, but with the lips on, sort of makes it a bit more friendly.
So, what we'd like you to do now is to get yourself a big sheet of paper, write down these different functions of a mask and collect all your ideas together. And while you do that, we'd like you to press the pause button. Here's our little reminder to pause, and then we'll see you in a short while. Hi, so here we are back again, and I'm just showing you one of our sheets of lots of ideas here. So just before we asked you to pause, we put some photographs and pictures out, but I've been adding to this, I've been annotating. So in this area we're thinking about to protect, we've obviously got medical masks, COVID-19 masks, thinking about oxygen masks. Welders have to wear masks, all the different protective functions of masks. So that interests me, but it wasn't the thing that really caught my eye, I don't think really. Frightening, masks that are frightening for horror, films and movies. Children like to go to Halloween parties and things dressed in masks. So for children and adults, lots of different takes on this mask to frighten. And I think that, the humorous thing was quite an interesting thing to me as well. I particularly like this one, the lady who put the lettuce leaf on her face. I thought that really was quite something. So masks still to protect, but that are humorous, masks showing people's personalities and so on. And then this corner, this disguise corner, the corner about hiding behind things, about disguising yourself, even putting a full face of makeup on to hide how you're really feeling. Even thinking about Batman, the Avengers, all of those crazy things, masks are so important to them. So we've explored it, we've got loads and loads of different ideas. And now's the time for us to start thinking.
What got me through lockdown is skateboarding and going on bike rides.
What's got me through lockdown is reading, painting and watching lots of Glow Up.
What got me through lockdown was listening to music and making jewellery.
Okay, so Jenny, so now that we've explored lots of different functions of the mask, which function is it that you've decided to refine your ideas around?
So I've decided to create a mask for a beekeeper. Since lockdown, I've been spending quite a lot of time with my garden, doing lots of gardening, thinking a lot about pollination, and so I think this is quite an apt mask for me to choose. So I've had a lot of fun just exploring ideas really, sort of looking at images of flowers that bees like, looking at the structure of the honeycombs here, looking at sort of traditional beekeepers' masks, sort of coming up with some of my own ideas. So I've made this sort of crazy fashion style sort of bee net mask. Just playing around with lots of different ideas, so like a bee mask here with honeycomb and some wildflowers, looking at butterflies and other pollinators, which led me to kind of play around with picking up some petals, which I've sort of put together here in sort of mask shapes, and then looking at some of sort of Matisse's sort of cutout style, so again looking at shapes, shadows, colours, collage, sort of putting things together. So out of all of these ideas, through exploring, I decided to combine the honeycomb with the wildflowers in this mask here. So this is my finished product design. So we've got the honeycomb with the bee and the flowers coming through it, and that's where my journey led me.
Jenny, that's fantastic. So now your next step with that would be to possibly paint on a blank mask.
Yes, so the next step is to paint on the mask.
And so just up here on the wall, we've got a couple of, you probably recognise, bits of cardboard box on which I've just used some plain white emulsion paint to create some mask shapes, because we don't always have blank masks lying around at home. So that's something you can do quite easily to enable you to do your next step of actually starting the making process. Okay, so in thinking about the functional mask, our design for a mask, I'm thinking here about trying to prepare some backgrounds with actual mask shapes. So we could prepare a large background to paint on, or we can make it a specific shape to suit the job that we're doing. And so here, what I'm doing is taking the mask, placing it on the cardboard box cardboard that we have found so useful from all of our deliveries during lockdown. I'm just drawing around it with a pencil and just popping the pencil in the eye hole to get an idea of where the eyes are, and then removing it. I might want to tidy that up a little bit. And so again, on a smaller piece of card, just making sure that the edges of the mask fit in. You may not want to have just a plain mask shape like that. Here's a slightly more decorative mask, a mask to disguise the eyes. And so I can't really draw around this one. I've used this and I'm just sketching here the shapes. Probably not going to be exactly the right size, but we are allowed a certain amount of artistic license in this. So there's another mask shape. And so again, like on the bits of canvas and the large pieces of cardboard, I'm going to take some ordinary emulsion paint and I'm going to paint just inside these lines. Again, you can see that the paint is in some places taking on the texture of the cardboard underneath, which is inevitable with corrugated card of a lot of our delivery boxes. But you might like to use that, sort of use it within the design, or like I'm doing, you might want to put a couple of layers of paint on just to make sure you've got a good surface on which to create the rest of your design. So I'll just quickly, obviously these are going to be cut out, or they could be cut out eventually. If your brush skills in keeping to the lines aren't great, don't worry too much. We can neaten up the edges afterwards. So, as in most paint, if you try to put too much on in one go, it gets a bit cloggy, so it's good to do one layer, and then if you think, oh, it's not as white as I really want it, or whatever colour you're using, then come back to it and give it a second coat. So here we are with the plain cardboard, and again I'm just going to cover the shape. I haven't bothered with the eyes on this because I was thinking I might decide I want to reposition them anyway in the design, so it'd be probably good to have a couple of just plain white face shapes on which to work.
So Liz, would you like to talk us through the refining of some of your ideas?
Yeah, of course. Okay, so having said, when I was looking at all the different functions, I thought disguising, hiding behind was probably something that I was quite interested in. And when I was doing my research, I came across this part human, sort of part robotic type of head, and I thought that is really scary. I don't want to go down that route, but it did give me an idea to try and think about a mask that just partially covered the face, not the whole face. And like Jenny, during lockdown, I've spent a lot of time in the garden, but I've had the luxury of having the time to sit and paint. And so I spent a lot of time really appreciating the sort of serenity and the sanctuary of the garden, the tranquil calmness. So from the paintings that I did, it really got me looking at, zooming in on these lilies that were in the garden. And of course, one of my favourite artists from the States, Georgia O'Keeffe, she was an incredible artist of her time. But one of the things she did was to zoom in and look at things in a totally different way. And that was her way of sort of expressing herself and talking. So I thought maybe some of you might like to really zoom in on things and create masks that look so closely. So I've been looking at the lilies in the garden, and as one of my other little projects, I painted a lily in lockdown with a bit of sort of uncertainty and darkness in the background. But I thought actually that lily itself would be amazing. So I had a blank mask like this and I was imagining the lily over the face. So I started having a think and planning what it might look like. Hi, so here is the finished mask. As you can see, I've put a few additions on it. So not only have I got the lily spreading across the face from one eye, I've actually put the stamen and the anthers on to very, very fine wire so that they form a bit like the eyelashes to the mask. So that's one that, yeah, you know, it's a mask for a summer party. It's a mask for like Midsummer's Day or something like that. Not to frighten, but perhaps to hide behind and to enjoy. Now, what I did do was to start, I returned to this mask here and thought, do you know what? I think I could possibly do something with that as well. And so I started exploring a mask to disguise that would be a little bit frightening. Okay, so here is the finished or almost finished of that sort of slightly scary mask. My grandson was really interested in the fact that he said, what's the red stuff there? And I was sort of, well, that's where the mask has actually been forced into the face. It's really not very pleasant. But of course on here I'm just playing about on a cardboard mask. But all of these cardboard and metal and plastic things that I've painted to look like bits of sort of a robotic machinery and robotic part of a face. So I'm sure that that's quite scary. So now that we have explained some of the ways that we have developed our ideas, it's up to you to go away, to have a really good think, to zoom in on the things that interest you in particular, and thinking about those tasks. Can you design a face mask that is to protect but reflects your personality? Can you do a face mask that is going to scare or make somebody a little bit frightened? Or could you design and make a very elaborate face mask that just hides the eyes? There are lots and lots of blank face masks to be had in some of the supermarkets and so on around town. But as I said earlier, if you even just draw yourself a mask shape, some emulsion paint, you can use that for your designing stage and even cut it out to make your mask. I think so.
So before we leave you for this week to get on with all the buzzing ideas that you've probably got going around your head, we just thought we'd share with you some of the some of the creations that local artists have done sort of in response to COVID-19 and masks. So here we've got some fabulous face masks that Gary Mills has created. So he's made some cute dogs and some fun lips. Here, Tony Gerardo has done a spin on the girl with the pearl earring. So she's got her face mask on and is looking very glamorous. So here, Norman Steele has done a COVID portrait of a junior award sister, Bryony May, in her PPE. Zara Hakoum, she's done this incredible pen sketch of the statue of St Francis of Assisi wearing a mask against COVID-19. And here, Gary Dickens, his montage and collage masks, House of Horrors.
Hi, so here we are at the end of our first mask session, the functional mask. And we hope you've enjoyed looking at the whole process through which we go as artists in creating things. What we also look forward to is seeing some of the things that you've begun to create. So we'll meet up with you later on today in some of the question and answer sessions when hopefully you'll have a few things to show and to share, and we can maybe help you to further refine your ideas and create something really incredible that you have great fun doing. So see you later.